Is Monday, March 20th, 2023, and this is a work session for Salisbury City Council. Following the work session, we will have a special meeting to address one of the items that we're going to be speaking about during the work session. First item up on the agenda is going to be a resolution to establish an endowment fund for the Ann Street Village. And here we have our Housing and Community Development Director, Ron Strickler. Mr. Strickler. Okay.
Are they going to be able to hear me here?
Yeah.
Talk loudly. We're good?
Talk loud. We're good.
Okay. So I do apologize. I started getting a migraine like 20 minutes ago, so vision's a little blurry. Actually, Brett Sanders is here with us, our housing and homeless manager. He's going to outline the program today. So Brett, you want to take over? I mean, essentially the program will support Ann Street Village and other programs that we offer through Housing and Homeless Division of Community Development.
Yep, sure. Get this better here.
You should just talk and it should.
Okay.
Hopefully.
Yeah, so this idea was brought to us from the Community Foundation, and it's to address the need of how do we solicit the public for donations for the project in a way that is structured and has accountability, and also gives the public a good platform to do so. And we think that the relationship with the Community Foundation is a good relationship to do that. They offered us a non-endowed community needs fund, and what that looks like is it has a 1% operating cost. The drawdown is a minimum of $1,000 that has to be in the account, and it'll operate in a way where if we have a emergency expense or an operating need on site or an operating need within homeless services, we can contact the Community Foundation, and we can sort of have an open granting process where we let them know how much we need from the fund, and they will make that fund straightforward. That's kind of how the setup works. They have donor advisors that when there are big ticket donors that come to the foundation, they sort of help them figure out what initiatives in the community they'd like to support, and they've indicated that homelessness is an initiative that many of their donors have indicated they would like to help with. And that's when they came to us and asked if we could sit down and have a conversation about how to get this off the ground.
And it'll support a wide variety of functions at Ann Street Village and citywide through the homeless initiatives, utilities, operational costs. As Brett said, emergency costs. We've been working with the communications team here with the city. They've done a really good job of setting up an outline of what the program look different levels of sponsorship based off of the costs associated with each individual unit. Transitional dwelling unit, as well as the bathroom shower facility, some name recognition should folks be interested in that piece. We've already had some strong donations on the front end, as we're building the site up. So I think it'll be a good way to recognize those in our community that are going to continue to support our homeless initiatives.
Any questions from the council? Chris, I'm going to, just so everybody knows, we're having some technical difficulties, but I'm going to start with Ms. Jackson. She's online, joining us by Zoom. You have any questions or comments?
Okay, I think she said that.
Megan, do you have any questions or comments?
Yeah, is it coming through all right on your end?
We can hear you.
We can hear you.
Perfect. Yeah, I just had a question on the units. I know it was just briefly mentioned, but it was a little bit on the softer end right there. Is it possible for us to receive the cost it is to maintain and, keep those individual units going?
We do have a projected budget for FY24 for expected costs, more so around utilities, but also coverage for the facility. And we're working through a program right now, hoping to get some personnel coverage at very little to no cost to the city. which will make things a little bit better for us. And, you're going to have odds and ends. A lot of that will come through donations of goods, toilet paper, shower, washcloths, towels, those types of things. But yeah, we do have a projected budget that, we'll be sharing with council.
Thank you.
Yeah. The only question I had was about the fees that it was going to cost for them to manage this. Just wanted to get an idea of like what kind of percentage of the budget we're looking at for the fees to manage this fund.
So it's just going to be a 1% annual fee,
Okay, that's not bad.
and it's the initial startup fee is $5,000. It's typically $10,000, but they cut it in half for us.
Excellent. That's awesome.
And correct me if I'm wrong, if anybody knows, I believe the regular rate is 7% of the endowed fund, so it is a drastic reduction.
Yeah, I was going to say I was yeah. that's actually great. That's awesome.
That's a good point. So with this fund, typically they would put a community interest fund in the stock market, but ours is going to be out of the stock market. That's what makes the money readily available to us.
As a non-endowed fund, which means it's.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I don't have any questions, and I think this is really good. It's going to help us manage this site and other issues, and so allows those who want to contribute more to it. So this is, I think, a really good thing. So do we have consensus to move forward? April?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I have one question, and I'm not for sure if he did state that during his conversation, but I kind of was hearing a lot of feedback myself. But how many people are we going to house, and how are we going to choose those people to house?
So we're going to be housing 24 clients, and they'll be program participants. And the way we developed our wait list is working together with other agencies in the COC. We've identified the folks who have been outside the longest in Wacomico County. So our wait list starts with people who have been outside for 15 years, and then we work backwards from 15 years, 10 years, and then the next tier is 5. And below 5, we really have a close range of folks who've been outside between 1 year and 3 years. And they're the folks we would consider after the folks who've been very long-term outside.
This is
Can you hear it? April, were you able to hear his response?
I can hear you guys. I don't know if April can though.
My whole screen went out. Oh, God.
I think we're good. April, can you hear us?
I hear you, but I'm like, something happened.
Oh,
Okay.
did you hear his response?
No.
Oh, okay, he gave a response to your question.
But something, my computer just went.
Oh, okay. If you want to repeat that so she can hear it, I appreciate it.
Exact same way.
Sure.
Word for word.
We've been working with the continuum of care, the Halls, Lower Shore, and all the providers and homeless services, and we developed a list of folks who've been outside the longest. And we're starting by offering spaces to the people who have been outside for 15 years, and then we're going to be working backwards from 15 down to 1 year. So we have a wait list of about 41 people, and the initial 24 are all folks who have been outside between 15 and 3 years. And if folks do say no, then we'll go and start looking at the folks who are outside between 1 and 3 years that also have severe mental health illnesses or physical disabilities, and that's how they'll move up into that priority list to be considered with the folks who've been outside the longest.
Okay.
Do you support the resolution?
Yes.
Megan?
Yes.
Michelle? All right, so we have consensus. We'll place this on our agenda next week. Thank you, guys. Appreciate your time.
Mayor, did you need me to stick around for the commercial vehicle discussion? or-
Sure.
Okay.
Good. All right, the next item on the agenda is an ordinance to approve a budget amendment to appropriate funds for the fire department's vehicle repair account. So we have Deputy Chief Woodbury here. How are you doing today?
Good, how are you?
Doing good. You got supervision in the audience today?
What's that? Yeah, my boss is watching me over my shoulder. Yeah, that's right.
Always watching.
Sorry. Yes, as you said, I'm here today to ask for a budget amendment of $50,000 to go into our vehicles account. There's a couple things that this is going to help cover. One, for our Fireboat 1, it is actually due this coming fiscal year for its manufacturer recommended 1,000-hour service. And then the other part is we have been recently advised during one of the preventive maintenance on the Fireboat that both turbos are in need of being pulled. They are leaking and exhaust is getting into the cab. So therefore making it unsafe for our operators. Our thought process was to obviously knock two birds out with one stone while it was out of service for one time, try to get both of them done. Unfortunately, our current budget does not cover this cost. It's going to be roughly around $16,000. We currently do not have the money in our current budget to cover that. The rest of the money will also help us for the rest of this fiscal year to cover any unexpected costs. And we also have some expected costs that we know are coming, both on our rescue truck and two of our older engines are in need of some repairs.
Questions or comments on this issue? April, any questions or comments? You good with moving
No.
this forward?
Yeah.
Megan? All right, you have consensus to move this to next week? All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next up is a resolution to approve the donation of a canine. Colonel Dave Mindshine. Present and accounted for.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I think we're in the in-between time here, but it's my pleasure to address you today for a donation of a canine through what's a national company called Throwaway Dog Program. This particular canine has a value of about now has a value of about $12,000. What we're doing is accepting the donation of the dog that came pre-trained in some police function. Our goal is to train the dog in a specific need that we have with all the city events right now that we're getting coming to town, and that would be for an accelerant or a bomb dog. We currently have one. However, we're desperately in need of another with all the events. One dog to cover everything would benefit us greatly to have another dog. This particular dog came to us from another program. Just to give you a little history of this particular animal, this dog was trained for bed bug detection. And for one reason or another, one was the temperament of the dog and so forth, didn't make it through the bed bug program, but was deemed and vetted out to be good for police function. This company has a history of donating to veteran services if the dog suits that purpose, and primarily for canine or for police purpose. The dog has successfully managed to get through the training without a hitch. How we came in to custody of the dog, or about to come in custody of the dog, was through Delmarva Canine, a vendor that we use locally. have had several dogs trained through Delmarva Canine. That's nothing but good things to say. Generally a 10 out of 10 on these dogs, and from my understanding, this dog has worked out fine. So instead of the city incurring a cost of $12,000, $12,500 for this dog, we are in need of a canine. We are short one canine now, and that we're really going to be getting this dog at basically half the price. So for just to get the bomb accelerant work done, we're looking at a cost of about $6,500, I believe it is. So the dog's ready to go otherwise. So that is all I have for that. If anybody has any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
April, you have any questions?
No, I don't, Mayor.
Okay. Are you okay with moving this forward?
Yes, I sure am.
Megan, any
Any
questions?
question?
No questions. I'm there.
Okay. Good, all right. Let's move this forward.
Yep.
Thank you.
Bring the dog in.
It's coming. We'll do a tour.
He's going to sniff out your office first.
Now, this is, I think it's going to be good. It's going to work out well for us.
That's
Thank you.
awesome.
Thank you very much.
That's fantastic.
All right, so our next item is going to be budget amendment to purchase and upfit 4 SPD vehicles. Colonel?
Yes, thank you again. So I'm here before you to discuss, as everyone knows, with budget the way it is, one of the critical items that we run into, quite frankly, is vehicle shortages. We have an aging fleet. We do have quite a few vehicles on backwater. We can't wait for those to get here. But what we are trying to do here is move just slightly less than $215,000 from the general fund, which was from the dissolution of the Wycomico Task Force. The city's share that we've received so far is $214,189.35. What we would like to do with those funds is repurpose those to upfit our fleet with 4 vehicles. One of those vehicles would go to our patrol function, 2 to our criminal investigation function, and 1 to our recruiting function. Our goal there is to, what we really need in our recruiting piece is to just put something out there so when these young potential recruits see us driving down the road, they don't see us in an old vehicle. We want something out there that looks good. So we're looking at some designs there to have this vehicle help us out with some recruiting, with the idea that we can repurpose that vehicle to patrol function or whatnot when we feel that the need is there. So that's what we have for you there for the purpose of those funds, which doesn't. No need right now to take any money out of general funds. We're just looking to use those funds wisely, and this looked like a perfect project, knowing that we need vehicles in our fleet right now. So that's what we would like to do with those funds.
April, you have any questions?
No, Mayor.
Okay with moving this forward?
Yes.
Megan, any questions or comments?
Just one question. I caught just a clip out of it. Where are we moving this from again?
This is coming out of the general fund. It was put in an account called equitable sharing account. This was from the dissolution of the Wycomico Task Force. This is the city police was a partner in that function. These funds are from the proceeds of the dissolution of that unit, and this is what we've received so far. We would expect another check to come in within the next 6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
Okay, moving it forward? All right, thank you. Good, all right, so we have consensus, move this forward. Place this on next week's agenda. Colonel Mindshine, thank you, sir, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next up is a discussion about commercial vehicles on private property. I know Ron has made himself available for this discussion. I know we've had several issues over the past couple of months pertaining to this, and so looking through the code when it comes to, and it's talking about, the issue has been people being ticketed that their vehicles were on private property. And I'm just going to read from the code what it says, and then we can begin our discussion. So under 10.32.040, parking of certain vehicles in residentially zoned districts. So it says It is unlawful for any person to park a boat, boat trailer, bus, camping trailer, commercial motor vehicle, commercial trailer, farm tractor, house trailer, motorhome, pole trailer, road tractor, school vehicle, or school bus, semi-trailer, travel trailer, truck with a truck camper attached, truck with a load capacity exceeding 3/4 ton, truck camper, or a truck tractor on any municipal parking lot, public street, alley, or public way located in a residentially zoned district within the corporate limits of the city of Salisbury. So according to that, it says nothing about something being on your property, unless there's another section of the code that says that. So I don't know if you have any input on that, Ron?
Yeah, it's in section 17, development standards.
Okay.
I'm trying to pull it up here.
So Ron, just to loop you in, somebody spoke last week in public comments about their work truck being parked in their yard and wanted it to be parked there, but got a ticket and then didn't want to have it parked on the street. So they were just asking if we would revisit that or understand a little bit more clarity. So I think we were wanting to talk about it. So
Yeah, so the majority of the vehicles commercial vehicles that are being cited on residential properties are complaint driven from neighbors, whether it's starting up in the morning. I don't have the actual code pulled up here. I'm trying to pull it up, but it is under section 17 zoning, under development standards, basically list residential residential zoning districts in which commercial vehicles are not allowed to be parked on residential properties. So this is something I think that we've discussed before. Technically, any commercial vehicle, Mary Kay, ice cream truck, anything that is used for commercial property or commercial vehicle, it could be cited. We've talked about it previously. There hasn't been any changes. The majority of the complaints that we receive are related to dump trucks, tractor trailers. We've had some major issues over in the Marquee area with commercial vehicles, specifically a tractor trailer rig that actually had caught fire not too long ago while the property owner was working on it. So, the code states what it does, which is why they're being cited. And like I said, I don't know that, if it's actively seen, we now have a code enforcement officer that is specifically assigned to zoning violations. So there may have been a little bit of an uptick in enforcement throughout the city. But I don't think it's been over and above anything that has occurred previously.
Amir, if I can just add, understanding, I think the original goals and intent was not necessarily me I've got my wrapped Honda Civic for my personal car, is also my business vehicle as a nuisance into the residential properties, but more of these commercial rigs. So I think if there is discussion on that, modifying the type of vehicle, we can identify, if it's a residential passenger vehicle rather than a commercial rig, axles or size, shapes. That may be something that I think is the nature of the issue previously.
And a couple of the people that, and I know Michelle had mentioned, there was some other stuff going around where, and I think your husband had like something placed on his vehicle where it kind of like gave the appearance
we
that it was an
we actually had a
official.
letter emailed or sent to us, mailed to us by someone with the implication that it was coming from the city. They picked the right one that day. And it was somebody who just had gone and pulled up the code and was just mailing it to anybody who had a commercial vehicle parked. And my husband worked for Comcast at the time, and he had a Comcast vehicle out parked on the street because we lived there and it was his day off. So I think there's something to be said about the size of the vehicle. We have a lot of folks in this community that are, they use work trucks and that sort of thing. And I can understand something, as large as a tractor trailer, but there are a lot of folks who drive work vans in this community and take them home and drive them from work to home and back again in the next morning. So there might be some, I think there should be a discussion about the size of the vehicle. You know, a work van is very different from a tractor trailer.
And, and also, I know people who are school bus drivers in my neighborhood that have school buses in their yards. Does school bus count? It's, so I think there's some things we should look at, because there are people who, HVAC people, plumbers, other trades that don't have an office. They work out of their home or work out of their van. And, I think that there's some consideration there, because that's, then we're forcing them to go find some other place to park their work vehicles when they don't have another location. So I think that's consideration there as well.
A lot of people are now working from home.
Yes.
Especially after
Their
COVID.
vehicles. And now I'm all on, now I do have a problem with tractor trailers. I do. It's an eyesore at many times, and then you see them parked any and everywhere, and it's dangerous in the community. But when I see like a dump truck, it's his personal dump truck, it's his work dump truck. It's in his yard. It's not in somebody else's yard. It's not on the street. It is in his yard. And I think, as long as it hasn't become an eyesore, or it's got a flat tire, or it's not being maintained, the tags are not efficient, or not up to date, then I could see us giving citations for that sort of thing. Or for, like I said, the tractor trailers. But when it becomes a work vehicle, and a person, most of the time now, even when you work on a job, they give you a carry home vehicle. Xfinity does. A lot of those guys take their truck home. My nephew works for DNR. He takes his work truck home. So I we've got to find a way to make this work for everybody.
I'd like to point out too, just real quick, one other thing is that a lot of these companies that these folks are working for, that they don't own the company, like Comcast, the company requires them to park them on the street. They are not allowed to park them in the driveway. So I know for a fact that that's a Comcast rule. So there's an issue there, is if it's not on their property, if the company requires it to be parked on the street and not on their property, what can they do? They're kind of stuck between the city code and the employment regulations, what their employer requires. So we need to be cognizant of that as well.
We also should talk to Xfinity, because if a person has a work vehicle and they have to take it home, to me, parking on the street is kind of being obstructive to other vehicles that are coming through. So I would think that they would allow them to park in their yards or in their driveways.
It's a security thing for them, and it's also a.
Now I'm just saying.
There's a couple of reasons for it, but it's also an accessibility. If the truck breaks down, sometimes if someone parks it in the driveway, it's not accessible for a tow truck to come in and pull it, because trust me, these guys put a lot of miles on these vehicles, and they go through them pretty quickly. So that's part of the reason why they're required to park it on the street, so it's accessible if it breaks down.
So in relation to the code that I was specifically referring to, it's 17.156.060. It's under development standards. It applies to R5, R8, and R10 zoning standards. And essentially under D2, no outside storage of trucks or vans used in the conduct of business shall be permitted. So that would be any commercial vehicle.
What was the number again? I'm sorry.
It's 17.156.060. It's under development standards. So it's basically development standards set forth under residential zoning districts in the city. We've discussed this at length internally. I think one way we could tackle this would be to go with a governed weight of a vehicle. We don't get a lot of complaints about Xfinity vehicles or Mary Kay vehicles or personal work vans. The majority of the complaints that we're receiving are related to dump trucks, tractor trailer rigs. Don't hear a whole lot about school buses, whether or not the school bus is conducting business. There might be other laws that prevent us from outside maybe Maryland code that would prevent us from citing school buses. I don't know that to be fact, but like I said, I think the one key thing is if they were to have a space inside to store these vehicles. If it was a pole building or something that they could pull into, it wouldn't be exposed, so it wouldn't be creating the issue. Generally, the concern that we hear from most residents is they just don't want to look at a tractor trailer in the front of somebody else's house across from them or next to them, or whether the noise when they start them up to warm them up in the morning, the air brakes, all those different things. We can definitely look at addressing it, but I think one of our best courses could be to look at like a governed weight, so we're not necessarily affecting what might be a pickup truck. Chesapeake Utilities is just an example. You know, I know a lot of those guys have take-home vehicles too. You know, so that's something we might be able to move forward, but I don't necessarily know that we're going to be able. I think you'll hear complaints from both sides, you know, and I think there's probably a lot more folks that would be on the side of, you know, not wanting tractor trailers or dump trucks in the residential zones.
Yeah, if I could add, I was involved in writing some of this language, and I would concede that perhaps it could be better written. But the intent at the time was that for somebody with an Xfinity vehicle or, you know, ABC Plumbing or what have you, they would be allowed to park that vehicle on their property because it is a take-home vehicle. And it was really geared more toward addressing these larger vehicles that Ron is talking about. So I think even when it was written some number of years ago, the intent was that you could have a work vehicle either on your property or on the street.
So there's a couple ways. Since it's complaint driven, I don't know, and Ashley, you may want to weigh in, if it is our interpretation of the way it says it, so we can define these as not commercial vehicles, so Ron would not have it cited, or if we need to clean up the language within the zoning code to actually define commercial or heavyweight commercial versus passenger vehicle to make it an easier, more definable tact, if we want to address it.
I think even though we write a law, but our intent is not to do something else, when we're not here anymore and we understand how that, what the intent was, 15 years down the road, somebody views it as something else. I think when we do this, we should clean it up, and we should be very intentional about what we're covering, and if it's not there, then it's not covered. So I think I think like you said, where it's more by weight, and then, you know, specifically tractor trailers, you know, those shouldn't really be in a residential neighborhood because they're not built for the streets. They're not built to come in and out of somebody's driveway because that's just not, they're just too big for that. I would also look at the one that Julie printed for us today, that whatever we do in the zoning code, that this matches, because they say two different things.
Yeah,
two different parts of the code.
In Section 10, you know, that's something that code enforcement would not enforce. And so what I don't know if Dave's still in the room or not, but a lot of times what will have happen is if we'll go out, and again, we're not citing the vehicle immediately. We are issuing a corrective action letter, which involves no court process. It says, hey, you can't have this vehicle in your front yard or in your side yard or wherever you may have it. You have 10 days or 30 days to correct the issue. If you need an extension, we'll offer you that extension. It's not until the point that they've not corrected the issue that we've addressed, and that's when you get to the point the citations are written. You know, and again, we are following what's in the code, and we can clean it up. I definitely think we can clean it up, but we'll issue corrective action letter, and that individual then move the vehicle to the street, and that vehicle will sit in the street, and then PD will come address that vehicle, and then they'll move it back into the driveway. So it's like this cat and mouse game. And I know PD probably has a lot more important issues to deal with than commercial vehicles on the street. So, you know, I do think that we could definitely try and clean it up. But, you know, obviously with some guidance, you know, what we want to move forward with would be helpful.
Megan, have you got any input?
Did you say me? My thing is, and I just heard, I don't even know if it was Ron talking or not, I'm not. But how can we even expect someone, this gentleman came with a dump truck issue. How can we expect him to find somewhere to put it when it's his own personal work vehicle? I mean, where do we go from here? You know, if we expect people, now I can understand the tractor trailers wholeheartedly, I do, but this is his personal dump truck in his private yard, and we write laws that make him have to find somewhere to store his vehicle. And that goes for anyone. I mean, I just don't think that's right. And no, I don't want anybody's yard to become an eyesore, or become inhabitable because of these vehicles. But if this man has had this vehicle in his yard for like, how many years did he say? Like 15, 10, 15?
It's almost 20.
Yeah. Now it becomes a problem because possibly a neighbor complained. That's crazy. I can't find the sense in him. This man's had this in 20 years, and now all of a sudden it's a problem.
So we can look into this further and then come back with a proposal, maybe some additional language. One item I would just want to bring up as we're thinking about it, some people may have an unmarked truck, but will have a marked trailer, like a landscape company or something like that. Right now, trailers are still, I don't think, permitted. So I don't know if you want us to address that at all or just go with the actual vehicle.
I think we should probably look at everything and come to, I mean, certainly we don't want certain things on the street, but because I know that there was an issue one time off of Franklin, I think in that neighborhood, there was a guy that had a trailer, but he kept parking it in the street, but it was one of the smaller streets. They eventually got him to keep it in his yard, which kept it off, so he would just have to back it in. And he had plenty of room in the yard, so I think a lot of times as long as they got the room for something, if it's.
Trailers are fine in the yard. Okay.
Yeah, to me, I mean,
Yep.
that's.
Yeah,
I think they're permitted right here.
Megan,
It's not on the
did you
street.
have any input or comments?
Nothing that hasn't already been said. I agree with April there that we just need to be a little mindful about how we are supporting some of our local workers around here. We do have a lot of people who own their own businesses, and I just want to be mindful that we're not hurting them in the long run with any language. But it sounds like we're all on the same page of we want to take a look and see if we can't get a little bit more specific with the language there. I think we'll fix a lot of the issues we were having.
All right, thank you. All right, so I think we're all pretty much on the same page. All right, so thank you. We'll work on this, and then hopefully we'll have something to a little more definitive and effective. And
Yeah, we'll propose some code changes. The one thing that I will add in relationships to business operating out of a residential property, one of the restrictions based on those properties is that the surrounding community won't know you're operating a business out of your property. If you're operating a business at your residential property. So we might need to look at that as well if we, and I know that they're not, but I people can continue.
Well, I mean, you even look at people who have bed and breakfast, not an Airbnb, but just a regular bed and breakfast, in some of the homes, that are suitable for that.
Right.
In my neighborhood, there's someone who is building an addition onto their house, and they're opening a hair salon. I mean, I don't have a problem with it.
Right.
I mean, not that I'm going to use their services, but I cut my own hair. But, I think maybe that's something we should take a look as well.
Okay. All right.
I mean, as long as it's not going to be, 30 cars sitting outside trying to get in, it's usually, appointment-based mostly, and like photographers, and, there's several of those in the area that operate out of their homes.
Right.
So, yeah, I think maybe that's something we should take a look at as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
All right, before we go into the special meeting, we'll just go around, do comments. April, you have any comments?
All I have to say is be mindful of COVID. COVID is still going around. I'm not saying I have it. I don't feel well, but I just want people to realize that we still have to continue to social distance. And if you're not feeling good, stay home. Just stay home. I mean, that's the safe way to keep someone else from being sick. That's why I stayed home today, because I don't want anybody else to feel like I'm feeling right now. Make sure you get your COVID shots, your boosters, wear your mask if you can, because I know some people have upper respiratory issues that they can't wear the mask, and I'm one of them. I try, but it's hard. I can't breathe. But make sure that you do and take the proper precautions to stay safe.
Thank you, April. Megan, any comments?
None for me today.
All right. Michelle?
Just gonna second what April said, get your booster if you haven't already, and, just a heads up, folks, if you're feeling bad, it may not just be allergies, so just be careful.
And since Angela and Mayor Heath are not here, I'm just going to remind everybody, if you're able to, please give blood. Contact the blood bank if you're able to do it, and they will be more than happy to hook you up. So, Mr. Kitzrow, any comments?
Just one quickly, we do have a new person join us. He's got his fancy name tag, so I'll let him say hello in a second. We're starting to get into event season now that the weather is turning. In a couple weeks is the marathon, April 1st. So looking forward to that being back downtown and throughout the community.
So, good evening, everyone. Yeah, I'm happy to be back, and it looks like Mr. Heath told me a story about what was going to be on my nameplate there, so I'm glad that didn't show up, and I won't share that with you here. I'll do that some other time. But no, I'm just trying to get my sea legs back, started on Monday. Picked a bad day to start with the time change, but anyway, I made it through last week, and I'm back here again. Happy to be here, so looking
right.
forward to working with you again.
Have you back?
Thank you.
With that, we will adjourn from our work session, and I will entertain a motion to, I'll call the special meeting to order and entertain a motion to adoption of a special meeting agenda.
So moved.
Give that one to April. Joe. All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2786. This is the first reading of a budget amendment of the FY23 general fund budget to appropriate funds for the fire department's vehicle repair account. Ms. Boucher, welcome back.
Thank you. Good to be back. Ordinance number 27.
I need a motion and a second.
I was gonna
I'm
say, so moved.
I got a second.
I'll second.
All right.
Over anxious. Ordinance number 2786, an ordinance of the City of Salisbury approving a budget amendment of the FY23 general fund budget to appropriate funds for the fire department's vehicle repair account. Whereas the fire department has the need to maintain its fleet by performing regular maintenance and repairs, and whereas the fire department has experienced several unanticipated repair cost and price increases impacting the FY23 budget, and whereas the fire department has an immediate and urgent need to service and repair several pieces of equipment, and whereas to cover the current and expected costs for repairs, the fire department is projecting a shortfall of funds in the vehicle's account for the remainder of FY23. And whereas there are insufficient funds available in the FY23 fire department budget to cover these required expenses, and whereas a budget amendment as provided herein must be made upon the recommendation of the mayor and the approval of 4/5 of the council of the City of Salisbury. Ordinance number 2786 reads as follows. Section 1, the City of Salisbury's fiscal year 2023 general fund budget be and hereby is amended as follows. A, increase the current year surplus account 01000-469810 by $50,000. And B, increase the Salisbury Fire Department's vehicle account 24035-434308 by that same amount, which is $50,000.
Questions or comments?
No.
Call for the question. All those in favor of approving ordinance number 2786 for first reading, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair, any opposed, and the chair votes aye. All right, thank you very much. Nobody here for public comments. We already did that. All right, This time, the special meeting for the Salisbury City Council is adjourned.